Welcome to the Sanity Project podcast, where you can awaken your mind to clarity and success even in today's life challenges. We're here to provide insights and solutions that will help you live a sane, healthy, and prosperous life. Here's your host, Joanne Victoria.
Hello, everybody. This is Joanne Victoria with another amazing episode of the Sanity Project podcast. You are here to discover a life of clarity, confidence, sanity, and entrepreneurial success. Our guest today is Alyssa Weinzimmer. Alyssa Weinzimmer is an award-winning vocal health educator and personal presence coach, and founder of Voice Body Connection. After suddenly losing her own voice at the age of 21, Alyssa began studying the mechanics of voice. Over time, she developed a unique, concrete approach that empowers performers, leaders, and speakers to optimize their voices and share them more authentically. Alyssa has led training for WeWork, Equinox, Microsoft, eBay, Instacart, and more, and has been featured in Business Insider, Thrive Global, there's my voice going, Thrive Global, and Healthline. She earned her MFA from the University of Alberta and is trained in Fitzmaurice Voicework, and we'll talk about that, Hatha Yoga, and body-mind centering, which I better do right now. Welcome to the show, Alyssa Weinzimmer.
Thanks, Joanne. I'm so grateful to be here. Thanks for having me.
I am glad you are here, and I'm glad that we were connected because I think people don't know how to speak up. They don't know what to say. And I myself am an introvert, so more introverty than extroverty. And it's groups of people in person, which hasn't happened for almost a year and a half now. It's like, Oh, wait a minute. I remember those networking days. I'm not comfortable in those places, as comfortable as I would be in front of the room, let's say. So how can you help people who, don't know what to say and just rely on the old cliches when they're in groups?
Wow. That's a big and wonderful question. So I think there are a couple elements that go into why we get uncomfortable in groups, and then further why we have trouble saying what we would say. So this is why I, refer to myself both as a voice coach and also a presence coach. And the first part has to do with presence. So it really, I believe, has to do with the regulation of our nervous system. Our nervous system can be in a couple different states. It can be regulated, is what we could call it. And then we're able to make friends with people. We're able to be social, connect, be really outgoing. Or you say you're an introvert, and that also can be part of an authentic presence, is that, we connect more on a smaller level. That's one way our nervous system can be, is that we are able to connect. Another way that our nervous system can go, another state our nervous system can go into, is what we often refer to as fight or flight. And that is where our heart starts beating really rapidly, our pupils dilate, we get tunnel vision. We just need to deal with the situation at hand because basically our nervous system has gotten the message that we are not safe. And if we stay in that state for too long, we can actually go to a third state, which is just shutdown, honestly. And so when we go into those groups of people and we start to get a little bit overwhelmed, we may go into that fight or flight and maybe even start to go in the direction of shutdown. And if we have a tendency to go and shut down, that's probably a good reason we would not even put ourselves in the group situations. And what we need to do is learn to regulate our nervous system. And once we learn to use breathing techniques, practices to center ourselves, to know that we're safe, to become present with the world, that's when we can actually communicate effectively. So there actually is an order to the whole thing. Mm-hmm. It's necessary for us to be able to be in that connected state before we can really speak authentically or share what we would want to say.
Yeah, I think authenticity is the key here, but breathing, people forget to breathe, don't they?
Yeah, totally. Well, and this is a joke that I make about why we forget to breathe. I think what we may actually be doing is purposefully holding our breath. And it's because we don't want to be there in that moment, right? Breathing means we're alive. And if we hold our breath, we're temporarily dead. So there's this idea of, okay, if I don't want to be in this situation right now, I'll just hold my breath. I'll just be not here for a bit until I get out of it. And I think that's often very much what's underneath not breathing.
Yes. How can I vacate my body and my mind? How can I disappear?
That's it.
I think, disappearing is the key. Yeah, as an introvert, that's my experience is I just don't like all the noise.
Yeah.
There's an awful lot of noise when there's large groups of people gathered in one space.
Yeah, I find, I'm actually quite extroverted, but I've become over the course of time an ambivert because of ways that I've spent my time and how much seclusion I've been in at times. And I find that when I'm feeling more introverted, it has to do with the amount of input I can take in. I need to really titrate the input coming in so I don't get overwhelmed.
Titrate? What was that?
Yeah, titrate the input. What do I mean by that? That is an interesting phrase. I get that. So it's, what it means is, I think of presence sometimes as a bubble. And let's say that I was performing in front of a coliseum of people. I would be wanting to be in a huge bubble with all those people, letting them share in my vibration, my energy, my voice, my presence, right? Titrating my input would be making my bubble smaller, like just focusing on the person in front of me in the room.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure whoever's listening is paying attention to that because I use bubbles a lot. Well, I have to because I'm so sensitive that if I have too many people in my bubble, I have to go to my room or whatever room I can find. Usually it's the bathroom in some public location. And I just need to, titrate.
Yeah.
I'm going to try that word on people and see what happens.
It's good, right?
It's a great word. I love it.
I'm just picking up a homeopathy word and bringing it over to voice and presence.
Well, homeopathy is there for a reason. So this understanding how to speak up when they don't know what to say, how to find their voice and speak their truth. What kind of situations are you discussing here?
It can be any situation. So I'm working with some corporate clients right now where the big question on the table is, oh my goodness, you're sending us back to the office. You want us to go back to the office after this pandemic, right? And so there's a lot that can come up in that situation. And as an employee of an organization, you might not know how to express your concerns, your needs, your desires. Another situation could, of course, arise, in our personal lives with our parents, with our spouses, with our kids. These situations arise all the time where we can't quite figure out what we want to say. We don't know how to express ourselves. And essentially the place to start, I believe, as the founder of Voice Body Connection, I believe that we need to start in our embodied experience. So essentially, I encourage people to start with the question, what is the strongest sensation you're feeling in your body right now? And if I were to answer that in this very moment, I would tell you I'm feeling a little bit of dryness in my throat is actually the first thing that came up. And that gives me an indication. I mean, this is obviously a very simple example that I should take a sip of water, right? So I know that my truth is I need a sip of water. It can get more complicated when you're dealing with the situation where you need to talk about an issue with your boss or your spouse. But essentially, our body is going to give us the first cue for how we're feeling. Absolutely.
And when you're talking about corporate clients and the management and employees going back to the office, in all of this time, whatever, 15 months more or less, there have been many cultural adjustments.
Yes.
So I think people need to know how to handle themselves when they do go back to the office and, how to not deal with, that's too strong of a word, but just how to be present in the moment with changes as they occur.
Yes. Yeah, very much so. So let's go to a, more complex example like that one. So let's say that I'm working with someone, I'm talking to someone who is freaked out about going back to the office. And the moment that they know they really had a panic was when the email came in from their organization saying, here's the date, on this day, everyone will be back in the office. So what I would ask that person, and what I'm going to talk you through right now is something I call the voice-body connection process. It's a series of questions. I would ask that person, okay, so in that moment, what was the strongest sensation you felt in your body? When you read that email, what was the strongest sensation? And let's say they tell me that they felt their throat close up. They felt their breathing hold. And I would say, okay, and why do you think that happened? Well, because I am freaked out about going back to the office. Okay. And what are your emotions coming up? What do you think your emotions were in that moment? Can you remember any emotions you felt? They might say, I feel scared. It's probably the first one, right? Feel vulnerable. And then the next thing is, what are your desires? And desires is an interesting thing because ultimately, as human beings, our desires boil down to some very basic things. We need to be safe. We need to feel comfortable. We need to feel connected to other people. We need to feel like we have the capacity to grow and expand. We have to feel creative. Those are essentially our human needs. And so this person probably, their desire would probably be on the level of safety. Like, I just want to be sure I'm going to be safe, right?
Number one.
Always. And so then what that helps us do when we unpack that is now this person knows what type of email to send their boss. Hey, I saw the email that we're going back to the office on X date. And I want to be honest that I felt really nervous when I received it. And I really want to be sure that I feel safe going back. And then, of course, the next step you would need to do is give some thought to what will help you feel safe. And say, could we implement X, Y, and Z so that I know I'm going to feel safe in the office? And that is an example of how you can start with your body and let your truth sequence through your voice to express something productive. Because if you notice, there's nothing about that email that we just, hypothetically sent the boss. There's nothing combative. There's nothing that the boss is necessarily going to be like, you're not being cooperative, right? You're simply just saying, I feel nervous and I know that I'll need X, Y, and Z to feel safe. Can we make that happen? Is that possible? Right? And that's a really, that's the most effective way to communicate is by sharing your truth and asking for someone to meet you in solving whatever issue is present.
Yes, I think fear is going to be the number one issue and anger around it as well.
Sure.
My experience with current issues that I'm dealing, it's like they're ticked off that they're being forced to do something that they haven't been doing for over a year for most people.
Totally.
And then they've adjusted their own life to handle it in a different way. And there's so much struggle for power because the larger corporations need the employees to come into the office so that the management that they have has a job. Because with that, well, it's true.
That is very true.
I mean, that's what this is really all about. Because how are they going to keep their managers? And if you think further out, if we don't have management, what do we do? So, because I'm sure management has not been highly present in the last year plus.
Yeah.
I don't know what they've been doing.
Well, and it's interesting that we're having this very corporate conversation on your entrepreneurial podcast, isn't it?
Well, yes, but the clients that I deal with and the attendees for this podcast, they hire people.
Exactly.
And they need to know, how things are changing out there. I mean, some of them are starting new, some of them are restarting, and some of them are just expanding. Only expanding. And there's a new way of being in the world, in the work world, whether it's corporations or entrepreneurs. And not all entrepreneurs are just creatives. I mean, it's more complex than that.
Absolutely.
But they need to know how to handle their people. They need to know that people need the sense of freedom that they had for this past year and still were effective.
Yes. Yeah. And I think you bring up a very good point too, because there's obviously a huge contingent of people who, like, let's say so many people who have adjusted their childcare situations, how they spend time with their children. And it's not just an easy pivot, like, poof, you're back in the office. Right. And so, of course, you're right. The anger would come up, and anger is a really hard emotion in our culture. We don't like it. We don't entertain it very often. And so to be able to write a respectful email to your boss or whoever's in charge of these decisions and say, I have to be honest, this is hard for me. This is really challenging because there are so many pieces in place that I need to put in place to make it happen. And I feel like I'm not feeling considered about all the work that needs to go into making that happen. Expressing healthy anger is so important. And if we can't do that in our workplaces or really in any area of our lives, we're not leaving ourselves the possibility of going through the ruptures that lead to a stronger, more repaired situation, a better, healthier, new situation, right?
Well, the employees, whatever department they may be in, IT or whatever, including the managers, they've been what's the word? I've lost the word. But anyway, they've been taking care of themselves. The work has been being done. They had no choice but to work from home. They were not given a choice. All of a sudden, their choice is taken away. They now are told to come back to work, whatever language that they use on either side. So again, they're given no choice. So it's an opportunity for a higher level of communication, in my opinion. And they should be able to find their voice, obviously with the help of someone such as you, but they need to have that voice to speak kindly, professionally, whatever, not in a hostile way, but they need to get that across that, under 50 words, what I lived through, I was able to manage on my own. And now you're telling me I'm a child again.
It can definitely feel that way.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
And if that happens, there are going to be different problems to handle because there's going to be an eruption because not that many people are going back to work.
Not in the same way we did before. And that's, going back to quote unquote normal. I don't think that needs to be our goal, any of us.
No, normal is what's happening right now, in my opinion. Whatever it is happening, it's normal. So how do you help? Okay, so you help all sorts of people find their voice. You help large corporations, smaller corporations, but what would you do for something at Microsoft, let's say? What type of people were you dealing with there?
Yeah, good question. Corporations are made up of people.
I know.
And so it's interesting how it basically takes the same shape. And I have, for everyone listening, I'll share this at the end too, but I have a course that is a mini course introduction to this process, what I call the voice body connection process. It's called Find Your Voice, Speak Your Truth. And, I like to joke that I can be a little bit woo-woo in terms of my approach. I mean, I'm certified in yoga, and there's meditation that comes into my work, meditation practices, and even just all of my theater background. Like I've spent such a long time in my life doing goofy warm-ups, like gibberish and all sorts of silly things, right? So sometimes I get stuck in the loop where I think, okay, now I need to make this serious because I'm bringing it into an organization. And it's really all the same thing.
It is all the same thing.
It's really all the same thing because we're all people. And ultimately, the process is about embodiment, expression, and communication. It's about embodiment being, how am I actually feeling right now? Expression being like, can I get that out into the world? And communication being, once I get it out into the world, how do I go back and forth with other people and receive and share again and back and forth, so on and so forth, in order to be heard and seen and feel valued?
I think people just need a beginning. They just need that opening where they can connect the mind and the body, as you talk about. I don't think it's woo at all, because that's the side that's the side I lean towards, because it has to come from the individual first and not just so much the corporate. Even though corporates or any kind of a business is made up of people, there's still this iron hold that they have over individuals. But people need to find something to say to start the conversation. They need to feel safe, and they need to know they're being heard. Mm-hmm. And as far as being a little wild and not taking too much seriously, I'm on that path myself.
I love it.
It's just, people, my daughter will say, Mom, you're not taking this seriously. I said, it's really not that important. And I don't take it seriously. I mean, I will say in certain situations, I said, yes, I'm taking this seriously. I understand the concept. I understand the consequences, but I can't live as though it's life altering.
Yeah.
So, because not everything is life altering. It's just a day. It's just a moment. It's a thing. That's how I label them.
Yeah, that's beautiful, Joanne. And what's coming to me hearing that is I achieve a lot of my work through playfulness, through play. A lot of the quote unquote work I do is play. I don't know that those two things are opposites. And furthermore, I don't know that seriousness is the opposite of play. I can be very serious about the way that I play and explore and involve myself in my creative life. Somber is maybe a different word for it, but we have an idea in our dominant culture that being somber is the way we need to be. And in fact, there's so much that can be achieved through a spirit of curiosity and playfulness. We see it in advertising. The ads that appeal to us are often the ones that are goofy and playful and fun, right? So that's a really beautiful quality to bring into our approach to communicating with each other and working with each other and the organizations and communities that we're a part of.
Most workshops and seminars and trainings are amusing based. They're comedy based. They have, with dyads and all sorts of little games that you play just to loosen up, just to get people to participate. And there's nothing wrong with that, because that's where all the good stuff comes from. Yeah. So how best can people find you, Alyssa?
Yeah, so my website is voicebodyconnection.com. And the mini course that I mentioned, the free mini course, is voicebodyconnection.com. You'll find it there. It's on the mini course page. And that's where people can find me. And
is there a place that they can sign up to receive emails from you?
Yeah, if you sign up for the mini course, you will get the emails about that and other emails as well.
There you go, people. This has been an interesting observation about voice and presence with the founder of Voice Body Connection, Alyssa Weinzimmer. I want to thank Alyssa Weinzimmer for being here today. And I hope that everyone has received some insights that they can take with them in their lives. And for those of you who want a free book, you can go to my website at askjoannevictoria.com and sign up for the True Self Handbook, a guide to transform your life. I don't know if it has anything in there about voice presence. I don't think it does.
Okay.
But I don't know, because I wrote it so long ago. Maybe I have to change the free book.
Well, people can always read both, and I'm sure they complement each other.
Yes. Thank you so much for being here today. It's been delightful. And everybody, re-listen to this podcast, because you didn't hear every word Alyssa said. And I want you to take care. Everybody, bye-bye.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Sanity Project podcast. Please go to askjoannevictoria.com to listen to more podcasts. Check out Joanne's coaching programs and get a free copy of her report, 5 Steps to Achieve Life-Work Harmony. That's askjoannevictoria.com. Take care, and thanks for being here.